So I ended up coming out here because I saw a soccer ball and I thought it might be a good soccer ball. It's a soccer ball that washed up from the ocean and it was waterlogged, but I looked at it and it said all weather play. And then I found the perfect place to sit out here. So I kind of thought I'd come out here and make a random spontaneous video, but I remembered that I forgot my microphone, so I'm sorry about the sound quality. And I just wanted to talk about some of the insights that have been floating around in my head. I've been thinking a lot about letting things go and how ultimately that's nothing that we can really do. But I thought of this memory that happened, I think, like at the very start of me learning what the word enlightenment was and getting into Eckhart Tolle. And there was this really hard winter when we got a ton of snow. And I was right about to leave, and the snowbanks were really, really high. And I was like at the end of the driveway, right by a snowbank, and a UPS truck pulled in with a package. And so I didn't intend to park there and I couldn't get out my door very easy. And I ended up like crawling through the snow to get to him. And I started complaining about the snow and I was like, isn't this awful? I wish I lived in Florida. And I forget exactly what I said. But he just looked at me and said, I love it. Was such honesty and enthusiasm and disregard for my perspective that I was just taken aback and I couldn't forget it and I absolutely loved it. And I'm starting to realize that that's kind of how I have to be, not to the point of insensitivity, but actually being more sensitive to connecting with my own truth rather than going somewhere that's not helpful just for the sake of conversation. And I'm starting to realize how many things that I stay quiet about or feel insecure about saying or just kind of go along complaining about or saying because that's what I feel like I'm expected to do. And it's a funny example because it's such a cultural thing here to hate the winter and complain about the winter and complain about weather. And I realized that that was another pattern of mine that I was kind of holding on to, is that I would sense feelings of jealousy made me so uncomfortable. I was really sensitive to not wanting to make other people feel jealous. And so I would talk about my life in a way that was lacking rather than, wasn't really honest. Because there were a bunch of things that I was super lucky and amazingly successful in. And I would just kind of gloss over those or find things to complain about in relationships, partly because I didn't want people to feel jealous. And then at the same time, some of those beliefs actually ended up accidentally. And again, maybe this is just spiritual, I don't know, but ended up being my own beliefs. If you say it long enough, you start believing it. And so I've kind of learned how important it is to speak to the things I want to, and even in my own private thoughts, that starting to realize how easy it is, how crazy easy it is to let go of a perspective that doesn't feel good. And it almost ends up being offensive to myself because when I'm really depressed, it's amazing how easily I can distract myself. And there have been times, especially when I've been in a real rage or depression or something, when I've become just aware that nothing is really happening, and kind of that sense that I am awareness sense we always do have, and it kind of like pops out sometimes where we can actually look back at it. But the amazing thing is that so many of the insights or like almost like downloads you get seem so amazingly crazy and like life-changing and unbelievable that really the root of them is that this is already your direct experience. And I have to shout out to Rupert Spira. His book, The Transparency of Things, and like contemplating the nature of experience, is amazing and completely changed my view. And I can't remember the title right now, but one of the earlier books he wrote talks about it in even simpler language, in my opinion, and just how this is already your direct experience, like undeniably, and how I've gone into different spiritual traditions that sort of like weave it into this like amazing discovery and kind of thing. And it's that, and it's already our experience. We've just been fooling ourselves for so long that it seems unbelievable to us. But like if you go directly into the present moment, it's kind of like one of the first pointers that I really loved from Eckhart Tolle, the what problem do I have right now? You realize you already have no problems. And you realize that even like making it about being happy or like trying to be happy all the time, it doesn't matter if you're happy or not, because you're already like choosing that perspective. It's the freedom to choose that perspective. So happiness will never be something you have, and happiness will never be something that's enforced on you, which is like even crazier, greater, deeper freedom or love than any idea of happiness that we can ever have. So already in your experience, there's no borders to your vision. There's no center of anything. There's no body that's ever experienced outside of like an abstract, imagined, is like Rupert Spira says, a collage of like thoughts and memories and imagery and sensations. That's already your direct experience. And so you have spiritual traditions that are like, you are not the body or whatever. And it's already like this very moment. And I've had so many kind of like flashbacks to being a kid and sort of like realizing that like the here and now was what was true for me, and the ability to imagine outside of any like fixed imagination of a thing itself was already what was true for me. But I felt like I was kind of stupid for it, and that I was mistaken for it or lazy for it. And so it kind of feels amazing in a way to go back to that, and yet we're so trained out of it that sometimes we get sort of off track from that feeling, and it kind of feels like we kind of interpret it as something else. And when we do that, you kind of start to realize that like every negative experience in life is like there's no choice but to meditate through it. Like if you when you're in labor, when you give birth, there's nothing to do but like focus on your breath and meditate through it. When you're in like an extreme pain or grieving someone, extreme emotional pain, there's nothing to do but meditate. And like I've experienced getting hurt and totally freaking out about it, or having like this traumatic event happen where I got this migraine where I started seeing lights and my brain like literally couldn't think, couldn't function. Like our body actually shuts down and goes into meditation to heal itself. And that's already our direct experience. And it's sort of like the clairvoyant doctor I talk about has this point in his book that was just amazing to me. And he ended up traveling somewhere on a boat crossing a river, and they almost ended up drowning. It was really a close call, and they just like prayed to God. And he said how silly people are, that they wait until the last moment. They wait until there's something drastic happening to pray to God. And I think we've always had fantasies sometimes, like end of the world fantasies about what we would say and the way we would actually relate to people if it was the end of the world, and how free we would finally be. And it's amazing to realize that that is already how things are.